Welcome to Attenuation, a weekly podcast where two friends come together to drink beer, discuss beer styles and trends, and just generally ruminate on the meaning of life, aka beer. If you enjoy your time with us, we invite you to become a weekly listener and subscribe to the podcast. Without further ado, here is this week's episode.
Hello, and welcome to episode 39 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Steven. How you doing, sir?
Hello.
Oh, I cut you off.
That's my moment, and you just steal it.
I just stomped on it.
It's okay.
39 episodes, and I can't get it right. I'm going to write...
We've had it for a while.
We did. I'm going to write pause in all caps. I'm going to bold it in my script. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
We're good now?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so
Get us back on track.
Okay, so today's topic is going to be adjuncts. A short history and the weirdest ones we could find.
Yeah, it's sort of inspired by a conversation I had at work talking about, well, one of my coworkers went to Martin House Brewing this last weekend, and she brought me some awesome beers. They're all pretty full of very funky adjuncts. Martin House kind of does that a little bit. So we were just starting to talk about, like, one of the beers is brewed with spaghetti. And we're just like, what do you, like, where does that go? Do you, like, are you boiling the spaghetti and then using the water off, like the spaghetti water? Are you using that to brew? Are you just throwing spaghetti in the fermenting tank? I don't know. I'm not sure how they're using that exactly.
Yeah, when is that added?
Yeah.
And how?
How are you incorporating spaghetti into your brew? So anyway, it just kind of came off of that. Because of that conversation today, I was like, we should talk about adjuncts on the podcast and how crazy it's gotten out there.
It's definitely gone, like, completely off the deep end.
Yes. Yeah.
Nothing is sacred.
No.
All right. Well, before we talk more about adjuncts, we should drink some adjuncts because we're going to do our drinking beer segment. So I'm going to introduce my beer and give some nose notes, and then I'll hand it over to Steven to do the same.
All right.
So I'm drinking Elysian Contact Haze, which is their hazy IPA, and it's 7%.
Nice.
So,
we needed a hazy IPA on the podcast. It's been a while.
I know. And I think this one says enjoy by January 22nd. So it's early December. So this one's pretty fresh.
Nice.
It's incredibly light. It's like extremely light. Pale.
That's like the Snow White of beers there.
Yeah, I'm surprised. And then I poured it way too fast. It has a massive head. And it's very opaque. Ooh, it smells delicious. A lot of tropical, guava, orange juice, pineapple. I forgot how much I like these.
I know. I just watching you smell that, it's making me want to drink an IPA.
Yeah. And I like hazy. So, all right, cool. I'm going to pass it to you to introduce yours, and then we can get to tasting.
Okay, cool. Well, I figure it's the season to drink some Christmas beers. So I am drinking Prairie Artisan Ale's Seasick Crocodile, which is a sour ale with cranberries, ginger, cinnamon, and nutmeg.
There's some adjuncts for you.
There you go. Yeah. Didn't want to disappoint on the adjunct episode. I could be drinking the spaghetti beer, but mine's pouring this beautiful, like, pinkish color, probably from the cranberries.
Yeah.
Really nice effervescent head with just about a couple centimeters of retaining head that's sitting there. It's like just very classic sort of wheat sour pour there. Wow. So a lot of ginger on the nose, just a slight hint of cranberry fruitiness, but it's very, very, very subtle. I would say the cinnamon and the ginger are the prominent nose notes.
Ginger is like an extremely powerful flavor.
Yeah, I'm hoping they did not do the ginger. Yeah, so just a little bit of like candied lemon, cranberry, ginger, and cinnamon on the nose.
Cool. Okay, this one's good. The smell was deceiving because it's like all these tropical flavors, and then the first flavor you get when you taste it is resiny pine, maybe grass, and a lot of lemon. And then, but it's not overly bitter. And then after that, it kind of transitions into the tropical flavors like sweet mango, orange juice. Those are kind of what are coming forward for me. And then it's really astringent. It like dries my mouth out. which is kind of crazy. And it's 7%, but you can't really taste any alcohol at all. It's good. It's not what I was expecting, but I kind of like it because it feels a little bit West Coasty with that big hoppy side, but then it has the nice flavors at the end too. So thumbs up from me.
Nice. Elysian. I've had, I feel like I've only had Space Dust IPA for them, and I didn't like it. That's like they're more popular.
Yeah, Space Dust is probably one of their more famous brews, I think. So,
but yeah, good.
Yeah, this one was good.
Nice. We need some IPA on the podcast, so I'm glad you drank that.
Yeah.
Well, my turn.
Yes. What happened?
So this is a very interesting beer. Christmas in a can, I think.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. It's not great. So I thought it would be a little bit more fruit forward with the cranberry, just sort of the play on the like tartness of the cranberry. The cranberry is very, very subtle. I mean, it kind of lends it to the sourness of the beer, but the beer's just not very sour. Really big cinnamon flavors, like big red gum flavors. This kind of ginger burn at the end. Have you ever had like a Moscow Mule?
Yeah.
I really like those. But like you drink 3 of those and you just like you can't talk anymore. It like burns your throat.
So you're getting that. Are you getting
can't do Moscow Mules in karaoke. It kills your voice. But it has that sort of ginger burn to it. Some nutmeg overtones as well. So the spices are coming through. It's just they're like really coming through. And I thought it's going to be balanced a little bit better with the cranberry fruitiness. Like maybe it needs to be a sweeter beer, and it's
maybe
like
dial back some of the.
Yeah, it's a little bit like too tart and dry because you just have such strong cinnamon and ginger flavors coming through. But I mean, I guess if you read what it is and drank, like, I mean, it is what it is. I just think the balance is a little off.
Ginger seems like super dangerous to brew with. It is potent.
Yes. We used to do HelloFresh recipes, Most of the time, if there was ginger in a recipe, I just wouldn't even put it in.
Yeah.
It was just like I was like, oh, I'm going to put too much. I know it. Even if I try to put a little bit in, I'll put too much and I won't like it. So.
And it'll take over the whole taste profile.
Yeah.
So would you give this a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a thumbs sideways?
I think this is a thumbs down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't want to drink this. I will say earlier today I drank a beer called Delilah from Martin House, and it was a cranberry raspberry sour, and it was one of the best beers I drank this year.
Really?
So good.
I think I saw it. I saw the picture you posted on Instagram.
Yeah. It was so sour and tart, but like...
And it was 10%.
And 10%. Like, nowhere to be found. Like, you could get trashed on that.
Like, very easily, huh?
Very easily, because I could pound 3 of those back easily and then just be gone.
Huh, that looks good. And it's cran raspberry. Huh.
Oh, it was, one of my favorites of the whole year for sure.
Really cool.
And it would definitely appease your sour desires.
Was it like super sour?
Super sour,
yeah. That's what I like.
2 cranberry beers today. One was a 2 thumbs up. This one, not so much.
Well, at least you got one good one.
Yeah. Yeah, the ginger and the cinnamon are just too much.
Dial it back, guys.
Yeah.
All right, so you told me that before we started recording, you had a bunch of postscripts.
Yeah, I have like a whole page.
A lot of corrections.
Yeah.
All right, so if you've been seething with
I gotta fix all the mistakes Jason made.
Steven's gonna fix them all right here, right now. Okay,
so let's start with Zymergy, the name of the homebrew magazine.
Were you saying it wrong?
No, actually we said it right, Zymergy.
Okay.
I just didn't know what it meant. It is the branch of chemistry related to the fermentation process.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
We should have named our podcast that.
I know, right?
Zymergy. That would have been cool. It's too late.
Yep.
Unless you want to start over.
We'll go with attenuation.
Okay. I can live with it.
I already have like a shirt and stuff, so.
Yeah, we're in too deep.
So that's what Zymergy means. So there you go. And we were saying it right, which is like a podcast
first,
yeah.
Exclusive. So there you go. If you want to start a beer podcast, Zymergy. That's what you should name it.
Okay, and then trying to think what order to do these in. Okay, so let's do this one. So remember, like, we did the Sam Adams deep dive.
Yes.
And we felt sort of cheated because it didn't seem like it was as old as it felt, right?
Yeah, I thought it was like hundreds of years old. It tricked me.
Well, my wife and daughter went to see Hamilton last weekend or the weekend before, and Jill was like, "Oh, in one of the first songs, they say 2 pints of Sam Adams, but I'm working on 3. He's drinking beer, drinking his 3rd Sam Adams." So they made a reference in Hamilton to Sam Adams beer, which like doesn't really make sense because it's not that old, right? Like the timing, the chronological time where Hamilton is set, like Sam Adams beer doesn't even exist, right?
Right. So what was that reference then?
So apparently it's called an anachronism, where you make a reference, like a chronological reference.
Okay.
Which Hamilton does a lot of.
They do constantly.
Yeah,
yes.
They use a lot of like words and of course like music styles and But anyway, so like the Hamilton is a complete anachronism of a musical, basically,
right?
And of history. So that's all it is. It's like basically taking Sam Adams, who was a person during that time, who was known as like he wasn't a brewer, but he was a maltster, so he was making malts for breweries.
Okay.
So they're taking that name of a prominent figure during that time, and then using it as an anachronism as he's drinking beer, saying he's having his 3rd pint of Sam Adams beer. So anyway,
that's pretty clever.
So I thought that was kind of a cool, like, especially because we had this feeling like, oh, it's an old beer, it's an old brewery, but no, it's a newer brewery. But then they used it very cleverly in Hamilton, so I like that.
And it kind of plays into the whole zeitgeist of like that. I think a lot of people think Sam Adams is like a very old brewery. So clever use in the play and also really good marketing on Sam Adams' part.
Yeah. Apparently like they just heard it for the first time when they heard it, and they were like very excited that they were in Hamilton. So
yeah, that's cool.
Shout out to Lin-Manuel Miranda for making a nice little anachronism there. Okay. Well, this is somewhat related. So we were talking about the two different lists for like best beers in each state.
Yes.
Dogfish Head made one, and we were like just saying that your lists tended to be more like independent breweries, and they were like, oh, well, no, this one has Dogfish Head. Dogfish Head is independent.
Oh.
Sam Adams and Dogfish Head both have independent status, because as long you can be owned by another brewery, as long as whoever owns you brews beer, it's okay.
I see.
So you can be a smaller brewery owned by a bigger brewery, and that's kind of like they merged, but they still sort of function independently.
Like they're not interfering with your brewing process. They're doing their own thing at their level and letting you do your own thing at your level.
Yeah, and it's not it's not like a bigger beverage conglomerate that owns you. It's just another brewery. So as long as I don't know how they draw those lines exactly, but
yeah, I'm sure they have like rules or whatever.
Yeah. So they do have their independent status. So I just wanted to fix that.
Well, yeah, I got to fix the record. That's important.
Other couple notes from the best beer in each state. One of my coworkers is from Indiana, and she was very proud of Three Floyds she was like, oh, I didn't think there was going to be any good beer from my state, but there was. And then she's like, I wonder where that is in Indiana. So we looked it up. It's in Munster, Indiana, which is basically Chicago. Like it's like a suburb of Chicago. It just happens to sort of run down into Indiana.
Yeah.
So she was pretty upset.
It's like almost a technicality.
Yeah, exactly. This basically is. Yeah. So I felt bad for her, but I thought that was just a funny aside.
Still counts.
Yeah. Another thing, we completely skipped Arizona.
Oh, we did? We both did?
Yeah.
Did you look up what it was?
Yeah, so one of them was Sunup Brewing White Russian Imperial Stout.
That sounds amazing. I love White Russians.
I think that was on the Beer Advocate list. And then Tower Station IPA from Mother Road Brewing.
Okay, never heard of that.
I don't. Apparently, we didn't skip much, but didn't want anybody from Arizona feeling left out.
Yeah, our list was incomplete. Sorry, Arizona. A ton of my family lives there too. Insulting.
You're probably distracted by Alabama. All the good beer from Alabama.
Yes, I was zeroed in. My anticipation was burning.
Okay, and then one more. You did not drink Abraxas on the podcast.
Are you serious?
I looked over every episode. What you did drink is you drank Braxton Brewing from Kentucky. Braxton Brewing's Dark Charge Mole.
Okay.
And it basically had everything that you would want in a stout, and it just completely bombed. You didn't like it.
I was disappointed by that and Abraxas. Because suddenly, the second you said that, now I remember I drank Abraxas. It was not on the podcast. And I didn't like it.
Okay, so that part of the story is true.
That part of the story is true. Just didn't happen on the podcast. Because I remember I shared it with other people. Because that's one of my favorite things to do is to share, like, good beer. Although, I think I'm revising my rules. I'm getting a little selfish, I think.
You don't want to share it with people?
No, I do for, like, 99% of beers. But I feel like if I peek into those 1%, like, white whales, I either want to drink it by myself or with, like, you.
Like no one else has the peak experience
exactly.
that we do, or
like
what?
They don't fully appreciate. They just know it's really, really good beer, but they're not having the. I don't know.
So you've gone like full beer snob.
I guess like a little part of me has, but I still want to share with people and get them into it. But like I don't know, unless they can really appreciate it, I'll have to think about this more.
Yeah,
it's an ongoing policy decision.
It's dynamic.
Yes, it's case by case.
Dude, I have some crazy beers in my fridge right now. We talked about.
You were texting me all these pictures, and I was like losing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Bourbon County brand stout from Goose Island, and then of course I see it in the store, and they have a cola version this year. It's brewed with like citrus and spices, and I don't know. Apparently, they did an amazing job at making a stout. A bourbon barrel-aged stout tastes like cola.
I want to try that.
So that will be fun. I will probably drink that on the podcast.
Save that. I'm gonna come visit you.
Right?
I want to drink all that.
You're
stuff.
like, yeah, don't drink that. And then I have a bottle of Utopias from. Apparently, I'll have to look into like exactly what how they're doing that now. But another Sam Adams Dogfish Head note. Dogfish Head, I think, is making a yearly Utopias now that's not like the crazy 28% $400 bottle.
Okay. It's like more attainable.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
because you showed me the
$15 bottle.
Like, okay. And it was just like, it wasn't in that super fancy bottle. It was just in like a regular bottle.
Yeah. I mean, the 6-pack of bottles, 12-ounce bottles, like $55 or something.
Oh, dang. Okay. Yeah. Did you just buy a single?
I just singled it, yeah. For like $15, but
okay, so it's still not.
No, it's still not cheap.
Not cheap, yeah. Because in the world of beer, that's like.
Yeah.
That's about as expensive as it gets.
And the bottle of Bourbon County brand was $25, so I spent $40 on 2 beers.
Yeah, that'll happen. Well, you really got me.
Well, with the fundamental observation?
Yeah, I was just minding my own business, having a perfectly fine day. And then I see I missed a call and I get a text from you that's like, hey, Craft Shack, which I've never ordered from, it has fundamental observation. It was like a flash sale, and it's a 2020 bottle. But you know what? Now that we're talking about it, I haven't even gotten like any confirmation that the order filled.
Oh.
But yeah, Craft Shack is pretty cool. They have a bunch of really good stuff on there.
It's all overpriced.
But it's very expensive, and then where they really get you is on shipping. So none of their prices include shipping, and let's see. It says, my order is placed, and it takes 6 business days, up to 6 business days to fulfill the order.
I was going to say, because the beer I sent you from Craft Shack, like, it took a while before I even, like, fulfilled the order and sent it out. I was surprised.
I'm not worried about it. It's not like it means, I mean, it's a barrel-aged stout. It can,
it's good.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited because that's my absolute favorite beer, so I had to go for it.
Got to take those opportunities. Seems like as soon as I saw this Bourbon County brand style, I was like, okay, like I had to buy it. And it's funny because I didn't even buy the original version. I just bought because I couldn't.
You got suckered in for the cola version. Was that cheaper or the same or?
No, it was the same.
Okay.
But I couldn't bear to like buy a bottle of each one.
Yeah.
and spend $65 on 3 beers. So
yeah, that's pretty pricey.
So yeah, I just got the one that I thought sounded cool because I'm reading a few things. They said they knocked it out of the park with this cola stout version. So
that sounds fascinating too.
Like a Jack and Coke almost, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna have some bourbon notes to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right, I'm gonna book a flight.
He's like, I'm coming now.
I want to try that Utopias. I want to try that, and I'll bring my fundamental observation.
One more note, I picked up my 12 Beers of Christmas box from my local bottle shop.
Oh, cool.
You just bought a box and then they put 12 surprise beers in there.
Yeah.
And there were some other things. You had a chance of getting a gift card in your box or getting a special prize. I didn't get anything special in my box, but they're all wrapped up and I haven't looked at them, each beer. So I just put them all in the fridge all wrapped up.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then starting next Monday, I'll start drinking 1 beer a day, and I'll post each of those on Instagram.
Okay, that's exciting.
So the day this episode drops, that will be my first beer for the 12 days of Christmas. And so you'll start seeing those pictures on Instagram each day.
Gosh, are we that close to Christmas?
We're that close.
It's terrifying.
You know, it goes fast.
It goes too fast.
It's like toilet paper. You know? Closer you get to the end of the roll, it goes faster.
It's like you're in gas in your gas tank too.
Yeah.
You always feel so happy when it's above 3/4 and then suddenly it just goes down so fast. All right, should we get to the main topic?
Yeah.
Adjuncts.
So this is kind of funny because in my head I'm thinking all of the like crazy stuff that they use today. And we'll talk about some of the weird stuff they put in beer now. But really, adjuncts have historically meant anything other than malted barley that they use to create sugar in the beer, right? So in the brew process, you're going to take malted barley, wash that with water, and the sugars are going to come off of that. And those are the sugars that the yeast are going to ferment. And according to the Reinheitsgebot German beer purity laws, that's all you should be using to get the sugar is just that malted barley. But what Belgians have done forever, this is not like a new thing. They've used syrups and adjunct sugars to change the way the beer tastes, change the way how much alcohol is in the beer, and to change mouthfeel and clarity, head retention, all this kind of stuff you can manipulate by adding extra sugar to the wort or using other grains like corn and rye.
So it's been done forever, but in the early days of the American brewing scene, it was looked down on a little bit.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at Anchor and Sierra Nevada and maybe Russian River at first, the beer they were making was very adjunct free, and that is because it was this rebellion against macro beer, and all the macro brews use corn as an adjunct, and that's really just because of cost. So there's different kinds of barley. 2-row and 6-row are very common beer barleys. 2-row creates a more sort of flavorful beer. It's very highly sought after, but you also have to import it. 6-row barley is very cheap. It's convenient. You have the whole reason. 6-row has to do with like how many grains you get per stock or whatever.
Okay.
But it's cheap, and it doesn't like create the flavor that really plays well with a light, crisp Pilsner. And so what these American breweries did was they said, okay, we'll use this cheap grain and then we'll use this really cheap corn, because you can get corn very much on the cheap in America.
Highly subsidized, yeah.
Exactly. So they were able to use corn in the brew to create that clarity and crisp flavor that they were looking for in the Pilsner. And so that became associated with crappy beer, basically. This cheap macro beer is using an adjunct to the barley. And so I think early on in the craft beer revolution, you had this sort of rebellion against that. They wanted to just use barley. Well, I don't know how long that lasted.
Right.
And I think, I don't know, maybe they came to their senses a little bit and realized
Right.
that Belgian breweries and even the Germans, if you look at like the Gose and Berliner Weiss styles that weren't following the Reinheitsgebot because they were using wheat as adjuncts. So, I mean, you can look back at craft beer, the history of beer in general, and realize that adjuncts have been, especially sugar adjuncts, have been a part of brewing history as long as beer has existed. So
Yeah, pretty much forever. Even like predating like hops.
exactly. So it was good for them. It's good for us too. And now, I mean, I would say many, if not all, of the greatest craft beers in the United States probably have some sort of adjunct. You have oatmeal stouts.
Mm-hmm.
That are using oats in the grain bill. You have double and triple IPAs that the only way they get up to those higher ABVs is to add sugar, add honey. That both change the ABV and the mouthfeel of the beers. So it's cool that it's become more of a tool for breweries to make different styles, to change styles. I mean, I think obviously it's gotten a little out of hand because
we're gonna get into that.
But you know what, I guess it's innovation,
and I think people are just trying to set themselves apart. But we did some research for the episode, and like if you can imagine it, it's like been put into a beer. It's terrifying. Some of these are gross.
And I would say, I mean, granted, I haven't been as aware of beer in general as I have been probably over the last maybe 2 to 3 years, but I feel like this is a pretty recent thing.
I agree. So I would say
not like the sugar adjuncts, but the
weird
like,
adjuncts are
getting very crazy. Yeah.
Yes, because in the early days, like not early days, obviously I wasn't around for the whole craft beer revolution, but like during the whole like hops race, when people were trying to make like the highest IBU beer, there wasn't like, I don't know, maybe I could be misremembering, but they weren't putting like Lucky Charms in beer at that time. No one had gotten to that level yet.
No, it was basically the hop war and then just changing your hopping techniques.
Yes. Dry
hopping and whirlpools and torpedoes and all that crazy stuff. And I would say maybe some fruit adjuncts, adding orange or grapefruit and again, not crazy, right? You're just taking taking a hot flavor that you're going to get anyway, like an orange bitterness, a grapefruit bitterness, and you're just playing that up a little bit with some added fruit.
Exactly. They're like complementary flavors. You're not adding something that's like out of left field.
Right. So I think that was the game for a while. And then especially as you moved into the hazy IPA world where you almost didn't need to adjunct those beers.
Right.
They were so juicy and fruity already. I'm trying to think back over my craft beer journey, figure out where it all went haywire. I'm trying to think like what was the first really weird adjunct beer.
Okay. Yeah. Do you remember?
Trying to rack my brain.
You are like the adjunct specialist of the two of us. You drink like multiple Fruity Pebble beers, I think.
Yeah, and even that I'm trying to think like what was first Fruity Pebbles beer.
That's a weird sentence.
There's a lot of them, and it's hard to remember what was my first. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, think about it, and we'll postscript it next week.
Yeah, I'll have to think. I'll have to really give some thought to like what was the beer that like this probably like what was the first sort of strange beer. I honestly, if I had to really think about in the time that I was drinking it, I certainly felt like briny melon.
Okay, yeah.
And that's just watermelon, right? That's just a fruit adjunct. It was just the best tasting beer I'd ever had. It was a sweet and sour, and I love watermelon in general. So definitely just like fruit adjuncts for me at first were probably
that was your gateway.
The gateway to, and now I think it's more of a part of the hobby, part of the like looking for something new. This is probably why this happens, because you have people like me who are like demanding weird stuff and new stuff all the time.
Yeah, of course. It's the same reason I buy all the weird flavors of Oreos.
Like, why? You can't be satisfied with just a regular Oreo?
No, we're all broken now, Steven. We look at our phone and in like 10 to 15 second clips and endless streams of data, and you just fry your brain. And that's why I need special Oreos.
Oh, this is the sad state of humanity.
You can reverse engineer the disintegration of human culture by the crazier things we're putting in our beers.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I was listening to you on the Watch podcast, and you were having a discussion there about hobbies being ruined, basically chasing peak experiences, and thinking back on some of your early watch experiences, like thinking back on some of my early beer experiences, realizing like how easily I was impressed.
Yes. Well, think about like when you first get into beer, or any hobby, but beer, we'll use beer obviously. And you go to like Total Wine for the first time, and you just see like the endless rows of beers, and you're like so excited. You're like, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff. This is amazing. And then you don't know that in like 2 or 3 years you'll go in there and
you're like, there's nothing.
There's nothing here. And if you told someone that, they'd be like, are you crazy? There's like hundreds of beer here. And you're like, I've had all these.
Know I won't like that. That'll be boring.
That's 100% what I think they're appealing to, is partially to you, like the jaded connoisseur, and partially because, I don't know, it's kind of fun and interesting. I'm a sucker for it, and I know I shouldn't be falling for it, but I don't know. If you see some interesting adjunct in a beer, you might be like, ooh, I want to try that. It sounds interesting. And then like 90% of the time it's just bad, but...
Yeah, well, not just bad, because they can very much be bad. Sometimes I just think, and this is actually a prime example of my Seasick Crocodile from Prairie Artisan that I'm drinking right now. I think you could have made a really good beer with these ingredients. Maybe, I don't know. The cinnamon is really strong, and I don't know and the ginger too, but the cinnamon is. I feel like my breath is going to be really good after I drink this beer.
There you go.
So if there's a plus. And I feel like if I was nauseous or something, you know how you drink like a Sprite or something, you could drink this. A good like hangover morning beer.
Settle your stomach. Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember the point I was making. So you could have made all these flavors more subtle. Maybe like just pumped up the cranberry, made it kind of like a sweet, like easy to drink beer. I don't know, maybe their idea was to just push these boundaries a little bit and just kind of be, I don't know, like silly in a way. Let's just see if someone will like this. And
well, I think they want
that's the dangerous part of craft beer right now.
Right, yeah.
But I've had some stouts. Well, last week I drank the Neapolitan stout, and I thought they nailed that because I felt like I was drinking a stout, but then it just had these nice vanilla and strawberry flavors that sort of floated above, but it was like very well balanced and it wasn't gimmicky. So I you know, like it would, you look at the can and you think, oh my gosh, this is just stupid gimmicky, but it wasn't. They really did pull it off. So I think that's going to be the balance we see over the next few years.
That makes sense. The other thing I think is, I don't have the current data on this, but I know like craft beer hit a peak and then it declined slightly. So I do think, and maybe that's not accurate anymore, but we hit like a saturation point, I think, where like there was as much craft beer breweries as that was ever going to exist. And I have to imagine it's really, really, really difficult to try to like establish yourself right now because the competition is insane. So...
yeah.
Are you really going to open a brewery and just be like, yeah, we have like an IPA? You know what I mean? Like we have a hazy and a double. That's great. So does like everyone else. So I wonder if there's pressure on like trying to stand out, do something a little bit more unique so you can get attention to your brewery rather than competing with thousands of other breweries doing the exact same thing.
Yes. And there certainly are those breweries. We have a couple of small ones around here that are kind of like that. They're very micro breweries, community breweries, basically.
Okay.
And they're not doing crazy stuff. And I don't know if they need to or if they'll survive without doing anything really weird. And maybe because they're newer and that like they're trying to stick to classic styles and not make bad beer. You know, like if you can make 4 or 5 classic styles well, do that for a little while and then maybe start to branch out. So you do still see it, but they're certainly not the ones that are getting hyped on Instagram.
Right.
So I guess it just depends on what your goals are and how many people you want to reach and how much hype you want to create around your brewery. Or do you just want to make beer that it's a little bit more traditional?
Yeah, I guess that's true. It does vary like with your goals and stuff like that. So
I mean, that 450 North brewery that makes those heavily fruited Berliner Weiss styles, I mean, they just lean into that. I mean, they lean hard. They just love it. Their can art is cartoonish, and almost everything about them is cartoonish. It would be interesting to meet the head brewer.
yeah, that would be fun.
Like, what are you, like, I guess you just love making heavily fruited Berliner Weiss, saying they're 10%, but they're only 2%. Is this your dream? Is this your dream when you started making beer?
Oh, no.
And then he'll, like, start crying.
Oh, my gosh. We need this episode, Steven.
Realizing how far he's strayed from
that'll be a podcast
his original dream.
Yeah. I just wanted to
making what the people wanted. Oh, man.
All right, we
don't even have to do real interviews. We just make them up.
Yeah, we just invent what we think they would say. All right, let's talk about some crazy adjuncts. Do you want to? Oh, wait, sorry, you had a point to make.
No. Let's talk. I think there's a scale of crazy. Obviously, marshmallows and lactose and graham crackers are very common now.
Yeah, I'm going way crazier. I found crazy, Steven.
Okay, so
let's draw our benchmark. What's normal? Like lactose is normal now because we have milk cream.
Yeah, lactose is very normal. They're using it in stouts too.
Yeah, any fruit adjunct is normal now.
Yeah, fruit's good. Cereal.
Kind of normal now.
Kind of normal. You see it a lot. Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah, everyone likes Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and they all like, is it Fruity Pebbles?
Fruity Pebbles. I've seen some beers with Skittles, so candy. Candy's kind of getting there, especially like candy bars, chocolate bars, coconut. Coconut's a very popular one now too.
That makes sense. Okay, so are you ready to go beyond?
That's the new normal.
Okay, let's go beyond the new normal.
What do you got?
I got this one. I think is just gonna win. I should save it, but I'm just gonna go with it because it's Dogfish Head, who's our favorite for doing weird stuff. They apparently made a beer called Celeste Jewel Ale, and they put in crushed meteorites, so like rocks from space that have fallen to Earth.
Where do they find those?
I'm gonna speak out of turn, and then I'm gonna correct myself in the postscript next week.
Okay.
Because this is also something that annoys me. This is something new in watches and jewelry. They'll make like meteorite jewelry and dials and stuff like that. And I actually don't think meteorite is that rare. Okay. For one, the whole planet is a freaking meteorite. It was an accretion disk, and then it all crashed into each other and formed a planet. So technically, every rock on this planet is a space rock. It's not special.
Yeah.
It all comes down to time, right? So if after the Earth formed, then another lousy rock hit the Earth, that's a meteorite. So I don't know.
Okay.
I want to look into how rare meteorite is, because if I had to guess, it's rare, but it's not as rare as they like want to make it seem. Right. So anyways, but they got meteorite somehow, and then they crushed it into dust and then steeped it in tea into a rich malty Oktoberfest. And unfortunately, this beer is retired, so we'll never get to try it. But yeah, there's a weird one for you.
Yep.
I'm trying to see when.
Dogfish Head.
Right? So of course they would win, because they always do the weird stuff.
Black limes and lunar dust.
Lunar dust. Yeah, they always have to do like, they can't just put in limes. It has to be like black limes. Or they can't just put in any adjunct they gotta do. It's gotta be like a little bit weird, which I kind of appreciate. But I think that one wins. But I have another one that is pretty close.
Does my edible glitter count as a weird one?
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, edible.
Because it doesn't do anything. Like, it didn't change the flavor or anything.
But it made the beer look cool. That was a play for Instagram.
For sure.
Because you can take cool pictures of it. Okay, this one. Are you ready for this? There's a beer called Kono Kuru. It's a Japanese beer, and they use. So this is something I had to research before this episode. Apparently, there's got to be. We got to find this podcast, Steven. There's got to be a coffee podcast that they talk about this.
Okay.
Because I had always somewhat been aware of this, but I read a little bit more about it for today's episode. The most expensive coffee in the world is coffee that they get animals to eat, and then they collect it after it passes through the animal. And supposedly it ferments in a special way. It changes the flavor. It's very expensive. So they use that in a beer. So in the Skono Kuru, they use coffee beans that have passed through the digestive system of Thai elephants as an adjunct.
Dang.
Yeah, that's out there.
I need to try that.
No, I don't want to try that.
Okay, that's getting a little crazy.
Getting crazy. I got more. You want more?
Yeah.
Okay. This one gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. Rogue Brewing made a beer called Beard Beer.
Beer.
So the head brewer, and now I lost his name. Oh, John Mayer, not that Mayer. Apparently had a huge beard, and it was kind of like a running joke that his beard would be a good place to grow yeast. So they cut a sample of his beard, and they sent it to White Labs. Like, White Labs makes they make a ton of yeast, and they cultured it, and then they use that to make.
Why?
I don't know. I would never drink this. This is 2015, by the way, so really ahead of their time. It says it's rotating seasonal, so they might still make it.
That is a prank gone wrong, like a dare that they just someone said it and they were like, oh, yeah, and they just had too much extra resources to make that.
And the worst part about it is the bottle. It's just like a brown bomber bottle. And that just has a picture of this dude's face with this giant beard. Just to remind you what you're drinking.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I don't know.
I guess their method of doing it was better than him just dipping his beard.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's food grade safe. I'm sure because they cultured it or whatever, I'm sure it was done safely. But it's just it just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
The idea of it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. So those are probably the craziest. So we've gone way beyond cereal now, Stephen.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of funny that this Goose Island made this cola stout, because I'm seeing a few more soda beers. Another one I got from Martin House today is inspired by Mr. Pibb and Red Vines.
Really?
So that one should be interesting. And then I had this other this Coke sour. It was a cola sour, and then there was a root beer sour. They were just sour beers brewed with soda syrups, I guess. And they were awful. They were just too sweet and weird. I don't know.
That's it, yeah. I'm not surprised.
I guess I have had a beer that had Mountain Dew syrup in it from Evil Twin Brewing. That one was actually pretty good.
Okay.
So I guess what it comes down to is that some brewers are just really bad at using adjuncts, and some are much better at it than others.
That makes sense.
And I guess it's it's not a mind-blowing observation, but it is I guess that is the world of beer anyway. I mean, you can have bad IPAs too. You can have bad basic styles too. So
yeah, that makes sense. It's just the whole universe. That's where we're at. We have everything from traditional beer that's still true to 1,000-year-old styles to beer that has coffee beans that have passed through a digestive tract or space or meteorite dust. Okay, I have one last one. We got to get one of these. This is going to be an episode, Steven, if we can find one. Twisted Pine Brewing Company made a beer called Ghostface Killer, and it uses ghost peppers. Apparently, it's really, really difficult to drink. We should get one and drink it on the podcast. And suffer.
And then the whole rest of the podcast will just be sweating and barely able to talk.
Yeah.
Should be a good episode.
Yeah, it'll be great. Everyone says it's very hot.
I'm sure. I've had a few spicy beers, and they're pretty hard to drink. I can't imagine one that spicy.
Yeah, I've had a habanero sculpin, and I liked it, actually. But I don't mess around with ghost peppers.
It's weird to have a drink that burns. I had a jalapeno margarita one time, and it was just not good. I don't know. I feel like I eat something spicy, and I want to drink something to cool it down.
That makes sense.
I don't want to drink something that now makes my mouth. I'm like, what do I drink now?
Not more of that. All right, cool. Do we have any other crazy adjuncts that we know about?
I don't think so.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of different candies,
cereals,
sodas, sugar stuff, marshmallows.
Pretty much anything you can imagine.
Yeah, it's getting crazy out there.
All right, well, if you know of any crazy adjuncts beers that we missed that you want us to mention in a future postscript, you can email us at contact.attenuation@gmail.com. And if you want to see Steven's 12 days of Christmas beers, be sure to follow us on attenuation.podcast on Instagram, where we'll be posting pictures of those. So I think that's a wrap on episode 39.
Love it. That was
fun.
All
right. So this has been, I already said it. Oh, well. This has been episode 39 of Attenuation, which is a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Steven.
That's me.
And we are saying cheers, and we'll see you next week for episode 40.
Nice. That's a milestone.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Attenuation, a beer podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram or Facebook for more fun content. Catch you next week. Cheers.